Hey, it's Steve Zotke. Just wanted to do a quick traction reaction podcast up at Road America in Elkhart Lake, actually, for the Aaron's Art on Wheels weekend with the VSCDA Vintage Sports Car Group. Tip of hat to those guys. Over 280 cars this weekend up at Road America, and plus for concourse at the Osthoff on Saturday night. Some beautiful cars that just pulled into downtown Elkhart Lake. And neat event, and just a tip of the hat to everybody involved with that. And if you get a chance, come up here next year for the fall vintage at Road America. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised at how nice of an event it is. But I just wanted to kind of let people know and maybe inform them and just kind of give a little more information on Hall of Fame race car photographer Russ Lake, who we lost yesterday. Russ is 85 years old and has been shooting races since 1951 and was probably the oldest active photographer that's still on the circuit up until a couple of years ago. And Russ dates back to 1951 when his first published photo was in the Milwaukee Sentinel, which he was probably 14 or 15 years old at that time. Myron Four, who flipped in a stock car at the Milwaukee Mile when it was still dirt, and Russ's photo was in the Milwaukee Sentinel. Russ's father was involved with racing for many years. Ted Lake, and was an observer at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, I believe dating back to like 1934. And through him, he was he came up through the ranks as a photographer, and he'll admit it took him a while and he just gained experience, and mentored by Armin Krieger, another Hall of Fame photographer from the Milwaukee area. The images that they were able to shoot through the years, not only the cars, but the drivers, the personalities that really made auto racing what it is today. You're talking like a young AJ Foyt, Tony Bettenhausen, Jimmy Bryan, Bob Schweikert, and those guys. I mean, those are the drivers that Russ started to shoot when he was just getting started in this. And certainly he's going to be missed, and a neat guy, and so many things he was involved with. He was a small business owner, owned some George Webb, kind of like hamburger type restaurants, if you're not familiar with them. He owned a couple franchises of those. I think ended up owning 4 of them at one time. And he also started Wisconsin Motorsports Charities. Now, Russ had a developmentally disabled son who was a client at what was called the Ranch, and later became Ranch Community Services. And Russ wanted to reach out a little more and do more. And through that, he started a motorsports charity, which was like Tom Cotter's charity banquet that Tom did, who was the head of True Value Hardware in Chicago for, I believe it was for the Boy Scouts. With Tom's blessing, Russ started a similar program or a similar type of banquet up in Wisconsin. And so what they would do is try and bring in an IndyCar guy, NASCAR guy, sports car guy, sprint car guy, that kind of thing. So it would be interesting to everybody in motorsports. And he would recruit guys. And one of the first people he brought in was David Hobbs. And David Hobbs became the MC along with Jim Tradle, 2 people I know very well. And people ask me, how do you know David Hobbs? It was through Russ Lake. David was on the board, and I met him through there, and we just kind of hit it off. And plus, I was the only one you could talk Formula One with. And Russ was he was a guy who was able to put a lot of people together. And that's what racing's all about. Putting people together and helping people. And Russ helped a lot of young photographers. Russ helped me in a lot of ways to pursue what I was looking to do in auto racing. But he was helped too, like through his father and guys like Armin Krieger. And it's something that we continue to do, and I think people who have the ability to should also reach out and try and do. If there's one thing I think we should all learn from guys like Russ Lake and Ed, that is to help people along, especially in the world of motorsports. Because I tell you, it's in certain ways it's a lot harder to get involved in motorsports in certain ways than it was 20, 30 years ago. So if you know whether it's and that includes everything, whether they just want to help out and volunteer at the track, whether they're trying to pursue a driving career, or whether they want to get into it through media, or even as a crew person or something. Any ways you can help somebody out to get and help motorsports in general in the future, do that, and do it with the thinking of, Russ did it, other people have done it, and we need to do that. So Russ, it's one of those things, it doesn't hit you until a little bit later, but we are going to miss Russ. Russ there's so many things that all these memories that kind of come in. Daytona 500 parties, he would have these Daytona 500 parties. And, Daytona used to start a lot earlier than it did recently. So he'd tell you, come on over about 10 o'clock, I'll make breakfast. So Russ would make breakfast for everybody. You go from eggs, and the next thing you know, you're drinking beer and watching Daytona, with an eclectic bunch of people, and some kind of big names too. Some people are like, oh wow, he's there. It's neat stuff. So Russ, neat guy. Dave Coleman talked about getting butt called by Russ, which I think all of us did. The phone would ring and Russ, you calling? Hello? And, you'd kind of laugh, but then next thing you know, you're talking to Russ for 10 minutes about all sorts of things. So we're going to miss you, Russ. 85 years old. He had a hell of a run. And I tell you what, he was pretty much active right to the end. He was sharp. He knew what the heck was going on. And he couldn't shoot the last couple of years because he had a he got hurt in that pace car accident. Look it up, 1971. He was one of the photographers that was hurt in it, and he had to get that same hip fixed 35, 40 years later. And it worked for her, but he was having some, little trouble. So he was having some issues getting around a little bit. He was ambulatory, but it was just kind of tough for him to do as much walking as you have to do as a photographer. So I think the last two 500s. Of course, last year, would because of COVID, but a wide career. You're talking 1951 to about 2018. That's a lot of races he shot. And not only just IndyCar stuff, but, a lot of short track stuff. You'd see him out at Rockford, Kaukauna, Madison, shooting Daytona. You'd always go down to Daytona. He started to go down to Daytona in 92. Did a lot of work with Alan Kowicki. Alan called Russ a few times, said, hey, I need some stuff for promo stuff. And so it was him and Alan out there at the track, just the two of them, or maybe a couple crew guys to push the car out and doing some shots. So he was pretty tight with Alan. When Alan came back here in 92 after the championship, or I should say 93, we did the thing at Greenfield High School, kind of welcome Alan in. Russ was one of the guys that Alan mentioned. And, because he was that kind of guy, everybody knew Russ. And once again, he was helping people. And so that was Russ I always would mention that. Russ, we're going to miss you. And rest in peace, buddy. Thank you.